Missouri is facing right now another unemployment financing crisis, and I'd like to try to give you some idea of what the extent of that might be so that you can have a better appreciation as you see this issue develop over the next year or two. To begin with, a couple of years ago we went through recession, 2001, 2003, and at that time the Missouri Unemployment Trust Fund became insolvent. We had to borrow money from the federal government. There's a mechanism in the Federal Unemployment Act that requires that to be so. And unfortunately, when the trust fund becomes insolvent and we have to take federal advances, or loans as they're called, we have to pay them back. And unfortunately, the paying them back part falls onto employers that have to usually increase taxes to make that happen. And during the last recession that we had, we incurred about $268 million in Title 12 advances or loans that had to be paid back. We ultimately did so. Two bills were passed, House Bill 1268 and 1456 a couple of years later. There was an increase in tax of about 38% overall over about a 3 or 4 year time frame. We paid back the $263 million. We also had to pay interest totaling about $46 million on those loans. And as a result of 1268, which the Chamber was very supportive of trying to pass as a good compromise, so to speak, what happened was the Missouri State Unemployment Council was chartered, and our main charter is to work with the Division of Employment Security, the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations, Governor's Office, and the legislature to figure out a way to fix this and make recommendations so that hopefully we provide benefits, but we also do so in such a way that's fair to employers and also the least amount of imposition on employers as can be the case. And we've been meeting now for about 4 years. We have a proposal that we've been drafting over that time frame. During that time frame, we paid back the loans, we paid back the interest, and good things were happening. And what I'd like to do is sort of cite you in a bit today, because things are sort of changing quite a bit. The recession that we're going through right now is the equivalent of, in flood talk, a 100-year flood. This recession, by just about any set of measurements at this point in time, should be done. And instead, most of the economists are saying that it will extend now into 2010. All right, but based upon the last set of assumptions from the Bush administration on total unemployment, what we know is that in August we went from a positive number of roughly $200 million positive in this year to a month later $102 million in deficit, and what has been requested just recently is borrowing authority for this quarter in the amount of $260 million. Now, let me put that in perspective. The total amount of loans that we incurred in the last recession was about $260 million. In this quarter, all right, we're requesting borrowing authority of $260 million. And by the time this all plays out, according to this model, what happens is that we have a period of 6 years under the current financing scheme where the Missouri Trust Fund is going to be broke. And in addition to that, the amount that is projected right now is for that amount of insolvency to be close to $800 million. Now, a couple of things about this. One is that because these numbers are based on the last Bush numbers, we're told by USDOL that in fact these numbers are conservative. Secondly, these numbers basically show us what's been going on from roughly October, November, and December of last year. You'll recall that January we had high sustained unemployment and layoffs. February has continued that way. And I think that, I don't think I'm out of line if I say that we're projecting right now that the Missouri Unemployment Trust Fund could probably be insolvent in excess of $1 billion by the end of this year. And that's the problem, okay? That number is very big. We've never encountered it before. And it's going to cause us to have to do some real thinking about this situation, because ultimately that amount has to be paid back. The only good news that I got as a member of the Missouri Council was that on Friday at 4 o'clock, when the Senate passed the bailout package, and President Obama signed it yesterday, for loans incurred in 2009 and 2010, they're interest-free. Okay, but the interest on the amount that is projected at this point in time is borne out by this comparison, which you might be able to read a little bit better. What we're showing here, is that without those 2 years taken out, we projected our interest on those loans to be $165 million. All right, our interest in the last set of loans that we paid back was 46. So you can see that number is very big. And if I take out the interest on the 2 years that are now interest-free, there's an impact, but it's not all that much. In addition to that, what we're also showing is that employers, roughly about 2012, can expect that if we do nothing, there will be increases in federal unemployment taxes that will come into play at a cost of about $21 per employee. The next year after that, 2013, that number will go to $42 per employee. The next year after that, it will go to $63 per employee, and we will have 5 years of connected increases in federal taxes to pay off the amount that's currently in this projection. And mind you, I just said that this projection is probably conservative. So we've got a problem, right? And I think that a couple things come into play here. One is that you may not have heard too much about this. You probably will about next week, because next week is when we project that the Missouri Trust Fund will probably become insolvent. We'll have to probably take about $70 million in loans. That'll probably hit the newspapers. And when you see that happening, it's, you should know that that will happen because we told you today. Okay. And we will take out probably $260 million in loans by the time we come to the end of March. All right, so it's a problem, and we appreciate the fact that organizations like the Missouri Chamber, as an example, have stepped up. They recognize that this is a problem. We're currently working with them at this point in time to figure out a way that is least intrusive for the business community to try to resolve this problem. That might require us to resort to some out-of-the-box thinking. We already have a proposal in place, the council does, that we're rethinking right now, that reduces the amount of federal tax increases by almost $700 million, almost $800 million. And so there is a thought process in place as to how this could occur so that we could soften the blow, all right, for Missouri employers. But we're trying to refine that proposal because, as you can see, maybe you can't see from this presentation, what we've seen for the last 4 months is that this problem has gone from positive to negative to bigger negative to bigger negative, and we expect that by the time it's all said and done, it's probably going to be worse than where we're at right now today. So the purpose of this presentation is to sort of say, stay tuned.